Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Am So Tired. I had a really long day yesterday. I do not have it in me to fully script out a video for this abilities tuning preview for Season 21. We're just going to read it together. I'm going to do some reacting to the stuff that Bungie has posted here. There's a lot of buffs here. I did a very light skim of it before we recorded. But yeah, I'm sorry this is not like a fully scripted thing like we usually do. I just don't have it in me right now, and it's either I do this or I don't do anything at all, and I think something like this is probably better than nothing, right? Right, guys? All right, anyway. Fragment budget review, like we're a bunch of accountants at a Fortune 500. So a lot of single fragment slot aspects are not outperforming in a way that Bungie feels like they need to be single fragment slot aspects anymore. So Bungie is buffing a lot of single slot fragment aspects to go from 1 to 2 fragments. So now you're just getting an extra fragment, and some fragments are very, very good. Hunter, Trapper's Ambush, Shatter Dive, Gunpowder Gamble, all going from 1 to 2 fragment slots. Really love that for Gunpowder Gamble. I love using Gunpowder Gamble. Titan, Bastion, and Juggernaut are going from 1 to 2. Like that for Juggernaut, and I like that for Chaos Accelerant for Warlock. That's the hold your grenade button to charge it up 1 for Void. Yeah, love that. I don't really feel like I have too much to offer when it comes to things getting buffed in the game. Like, no one complains about buffs, you know? So, like, who am I to say anything? And I like all these. So, good. Cool. Probably one of the biggest parts of this update here is the super tuning updates. Bungie is looking to increase viability of certain roaming supers, especially more melee-based ones in endgame content. There's a lot of melee-based supers that are not very good that are getting buffed, and we'll talk about those in just a second. But to start, all supers increased PvE damage resistance by 20%. I actually thought PvE damage resistance, for the most part, was, like, okay. Certain melee supers, obviously a bit of a detriment to be using in something like a Grandmaster. So I was actually pretty surprised to see this change come in. I'm not complaining about it. But I'm surprised they didn't do something like, maybe ranged supers get not as big of a damage resistance increase. I don't know, but hey, free 20% for basically everybody. Cool. A lot of people have also been asking about subclass keyword integration for supers. I'm just going to read this section verbatim. In our initial subclass 3.0 conversion, we opted to not include subclass keyword integration into most supers, but now that dust has settled, we are revisiting that idea. With Season 21, we're taking a pass at the roster and adding intrinsic keyword behaviors where their inclusion makes sense. Unlike existing interactions, such as Arc Staff with Lethal Current or Sentinel Shield with Controlled Demo, these will be baked into the super's base behavior. Okay, so Bungie knows. They're like, hey, we know. We're doing this pass right now. Let's take a look. Hunters. Overall, Bungie's happy with where Hunter supers sit in high-level PvE. I think they're pretty good. They think Golden Gun and Arc Staff are slightly underperforming in their intended combat roles. I find that very interesting for Golden Gun. I felt like Golden Gun was doing pretty darn strong as it is. Arc Staff, maybe not as much. It is a melee super, and if you're not using something like Radiant Flux, then it's not the greatest. Radiant Flux really brings up Arc Staff to the point where I think if you're on Arc Staff, it's essentially a staple. So they're both getting a PvE damage boost, 20%. Golden Gun, okay. Arc Staff, very well deserved. Golden Gun, yeah, I was a little surprised to see that, but I don't think anyone is going to complain about that at all. Okay. Granted, I don't really use Golden Gun that much in endgame PvE, so maybe I'm just unaware. Spectral Blades. I think everyone's on the same page with Spectral Blades. Nobody sees this super in PvE at all. It is notoriously one of the worst PvE supers in the game. And Bungie knows, and they are increasing PvE damage by 35%. That's a good start. The thing I'm more interested in is the heavy attack now weakens targets on hit. I am wondering if any new damage strategies are going to spawn as a result of this effect, because you can essentially now have someone permanently weakening a target while dealing damage in a super. And Spectral Blade's damage is pretty good. This might turn into something, this might turn into something pretty interesting. I want to see where people kind of take it, or at the very least, it gives hunters another sort of debuff option as opposed to just being on Quiver and just like pop one, wait 10 seconds, pop the other, and then you're done, right? At least this gives a little more variety into your debuffing fantasy. I'm going to go track down Brim. Hold, please. Oh, there's a sitting Brim. Oh, there's a sitting Brim with a chomper. Okay. Gathering Storm, Arc 3.0. These are PvP focused buffs. I have not really ever felt threatened by a Gathering Storm unless I was just dead center of the impact, like I was being directly hit by it. It's pretty easy to get out of its AoE, and just generally not too threatening. So Bungie is doing something about that. Direct impact damage versus players increased from 200 to 300. Delayed lightning strike damage versus players increased from 300 to 500. Lingering damage increased from 40 to 60. Now deals increased damage versus Wall of Radiance and Ward of Dawn. So kind of like anti-support super. I'm totally okay with this. As a Titan player who plays against hunters, I very rarely see Gathering Storm, and when I do, I'm just never really threatened by it. So that seems okay. Again, I'm not a PvP guy. You guys know that. So maybe PvPers are like, oh my God, Gathering Storm's the greatest super in the I don't know. But this seems okay to me. Titans, what do we got? Fist of Havoc. Okay. Fist of Havoc. It's not good. It's not good. Okay. I know they increase PvE damage in Lightfall. I know. I'm still not using it over Thunder Crash, especially if I can hot swap to a Curus. Are you kidding me? I'm just going to hot swap and then that's it. So Fist of Havoc, light attack costs reduced from 8.5 to 6%. Heavy attack costs reduced from 18 to 12%. Increased heavy attack PvE damage by 33%. Absolutely love that. Heavy attack now blinds targets near the center of the slam area. Really like that. Really, really like that. Fist of Havoc is just... It's very manic. It's a very manic super. And you usually have to do several light attacks to kill something. And the heavy attack just very rarely felt worth using, especially in endgame, because you'd have to use like multiple heavy attacks to kill a few enemies in a certain... I'm talking like red bars, like Cabal red bars. You're using, 54% of your super to kill like 4 red bars? Like whoop-de-effing do, right? So... yeah, love this for Fist of Havoc. It definitely needed some buffs. Glacial Quake, kind of an interesting super. It's a bit of a slower kind of crowd control super, but they are increasing the light damage attack by 20% and increasing the Shiver Strike thrust speed while in super by 10%. I think this super is a little undertuned with the light attack. Obviously the heavy slam spreading stasis crystals everywhere. It's pretty darn good. Happy to see light attack increase for this. Sentinel Shield, Hammer of Soul, Burning Maul. Happy with their performance given their additional utility. Feel like some minor damage increases would significantly help their usability in situations where pure offense is needed. Yeah, Hammer of Soul only getting 10% buff. That doesn't surprise me too much. I think Hammer of Soul is maybe on like the slighter lower end in terms of strength, but it's kind of, it's okay. It's okay. Sentinel Shield could definitely use a little bit of a buff. Happy to see that. Burning Maul, I'm actually surprised to only see a 10% damage buff, but they are giving it some other buffs, like Heavy Attack Cyclone now applies Scorch over time, potentially leading to a bunch of ignitions. That's probably why they only increased the PvE damage by 10%. If they didn't do this stuff, I would definitely want to see this 10% number go like way up, because the Burning Maul just does not feel like it's that potent of a super. But with the heavy attack now giving Scorch over time, that's very, very good for targets that have a lot of health. You're going to be able to hopefully hit some ignitions there. And creating a sunspot on cast when Soul Invictus is equipped is also very, very good. Nice quality of life change there for Burning Maul. Hopefully I will actually enjoy using the super a bit more than I am right now, because right now it's sluggish. It's very slow. The damage is not that impressive. Warlocks. What do we got? Voidwalker, increasing the PvE damage output of Nova Warp and both Nova Bomb variants, allowing Nova Warp to make targets volatile. Okay, Nova Warp increased PvE damage by 15%. Okay, I thought this was going to be another 20%, but I'm not going to lie. I have no idea how Nova Warp is performing in PvE at all. Pretty much everyone is on Slow Bomb, as far as I'm concerned. And they even increased Nova Bomb damage by another 20%. That is also surprising. Maybe I'm just not well in tune with Nova Bomb damage. I thought it was pretty solid already. But again, no one's going to complain about a 20% PvE damage buff. I think no one is going to. A Nova Warp fully charged attack now makes enemies volatile on hit. I think is pretty neat. How drastic of a buff that really is for Nova Warp, I'm not too sure. But it's certainly better than nothing. I would like to check it out when this buff comes out. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I like it more than I don't. You know, we're including subclass verbs in there. That's totally okay, or keywords. Stormcaller. Yeah, Stormcaller Arc Supers, not the strongest. Definitely not the strongest. I see complaints about Chaos Reach probably like once a week. Stormtrance doesn't even get complaints anymore because people just gave up on it. So both of these are getting buffed by 25%. Stormtrance damage ramp while attacking now occurs more quickly, over 3 seconds as opposed to over 5 seconds. Landfall detonation and Seekers now jolt targets. Okay. The jolt, I think, is gonna, like, it'll proc, but then you're just gonna, like, Stormtrance them to death anyway. So you might get, like, a little bit of extra jolt damage on certain targets. You know, if you hit maybe like a big target and you jolt them and then you're constantly hitting them and they're constantly jolting to other targets, I could see that being kind of good. But also, like, Stormtrance on single target is like inherently not that good. But again, it's like, I'll take it, you know. Am I going to not take it? I'll take it. You know what I mean? Chaos Reach. This thing has been a joke for a while now. Increased PvE damage by 25%. Sustained damage on a single target now creates a jolting lightning strike at the target's location. Okay, love that. Increased damage resistance versus players from 40 to 50%. Okay, fine. Increased maximum strafe speed from 3.5 to 4.5 meters per second. Fine. Okay. Adjusted camera super to avoid the player's body blocking. Let's try that again. Adjusted super camera to avoid the player's body blocking view of targets when strafing. Very, very good quality of life change. I know one of the issues that I had with Chaos Reach is, like, half the time I feel like I couldn't even see what I was hitting until like 2 seconds into the super. And you're wasting a lot of damage there. So very, very good buffs for Chaos Reach. I know a lot of people are also asking about GMX stabilizers getting their sort of super bonus back, where you used to be able to sprint to kind of top off your super. We'll see if Bungie does anything with that. But for now, very well-deserved buffs for Arc Warlocks out there everywhere. Winter's Wrath increased PvE damage by 10%. Yeah, it's a great crowd control tool, but man, is its damage just really, really weak. 10%, I think you could have gone like 15, 20, honestly, but I'll take the 10. And Daybreak is getting the same adjustment as Chaos Reach with regards to the super camera, so you can actually see what you're throwing blades at, although it's not like it matters because those blades will hit literally anything in the same quadrant if you fling one. You can just fling one, and you're like, it'll get there. It's like Steph Curry, just like, just throw in the ball, let him chuck it up, it'll probably go in. All right, Strand Tuning. What do we got? Hunter, Threaded Spike. That is the melee. Threaded Spike it's pretty weak. Right now it's just kind of being used as a way to sever targets. Like, it just deals very negligible damage right now. I think Bungie already mentioned some of these. I just didn't make a video about it, so forgive me if you already know these notes. So yeah, Hunter Threaded Spike is getting a lot of tuning. Increased projectile travel range before beginning to return to the player by 30%. So it's going to seek targets longer, I assume. Well, not seek targets, but like it'll go out farther. Increased PvE damage by 55%. This thing might actually be able to one-shot garbage enemies now. That's pretty good. Slightly reduce the speed of the dart as it returns to the player to make catching it easier. That's okay. That's fine. Increased energy gain for catching the dart based on the number of targets hit. There have been a lot of people who have said, I want like a full melee regen if I catch this thing. I don't know if, and like I hit 3 targets. It just hearing it sounds too strong, but like I wouldn't mind seeing it in practice, I guess. And then if it is too strong, I'm going to be like, all right, and okay, we tried it. It's too much. We're not doing it. You're not just flick, 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 flick. Like, but increasing the energy gain, I think is totally okay based on how much we get right now. Now pierces Cabal Phalanx Shields. Love that. No longer, here we go. This is the change everybody wanted. No longer prioritizes the catch action over the grapple melee if an enemy target is within grapple melee range. Oh my God. Thank you. I don't know if there was anything more annoying than like trying to grapple, you threw your melee, and then as you're about to punch something, you would grab the threaded spike. I would literally throw this thing before I would grapple to make sure that it was on cooldown so that my grapple melee would be the thing that actually happens. I think that's what pretty much everybody was doing. So hopefully this reduces the amount of times that you're catching the thing as you're grappling in about to punch 17 enemies in the face. Titan Frenzied Blade, decreased cooldown based on how many melee charges the player has stored. At 0 charges, cooldown reduced by 15%. At 2 charges, reduced cooldown by 30%. Okay. All right, I'm interested. Warlock Arcane Needle, decreased cooldown. Okay, so same thing as Titan, decreased cooldown, 0 charges, cooldown reduced by 15%, blah, blah, blah. Increased projectile speed based on the projectile's flight time. Okay, and increased projectile tracking strength by 10%. Initial velocity increased to 40 meters per second, up from 30. Final velocity increased from 70 meters, up from 60. I didn't have a huge problem with the projectile speed, but there were definitely times where I like kind of flicked one out and it wasn't hitting the target. That's fine. I think that's fine. Grapple, reduced base cooldown from 105 seconds to 82. Reduced the minimum time between grapple activations from 2.5 seconds to 0.2 seconds. So you're going to be able to grapple essentially back to back. You're not going to have to like, I'm sure everyone's been in the situation where you grapple, like you miss your jump, and then you're just like waiting for your grapple cooldown to come back on, or just come back online so you can grapple again and try and save yourself. You should be able to make back-to-back grapples happen significantly faster. And hey, Bungie, listen, they're like, hey, look, grapple, people want to move around. We get it. I still think grapple melee is ridiculously strong, but also Bungie did some interaction changes with grapple melee so that it's not like overproducing super energy. So I think reducing the base cooldown as a result is okay. Threat of generation, oh boy. Reduced energy generation provided by some damage over time mechanics. Reduced energy generation provided by trace rifles by 36%. Okay, I did not realize that the trace rifle situation was that dire. This is not as bad of a change as I was anticipating. I thought like threat of generation basically feels like an auto include in pretty much every build. So this did not get hit nearly as hard as I was anticipating. So that is okay. Stasis tuning updates. So I've done 2 stasis videos. I am working on Stasis Hunter right now as like my sort of stasis review, like where are we at? So it doesn't look like too many changes. Yeah, not too many changes for Stasis. Hunter Withering Blade increased projectile tracking search range on bound versus players by 20%, increased maximum tracking strength by 12.5%. Okay. I mean, I've been doing some experimenting with Hunter, and they might need a little bit more than this, but within just like viewing Stasis like kind of in a vacuum, like in its own little block. I didn't realize that Withering Blade was down that bad. So okay, I guess. Titan Shiver Strike. This is the melee. Maximum thrust while in flight increased by 16%. Decreased maximum downward influence of gravity while in flight by 18%. So they're making you more mobile with this thing. Howl of the Storm increased width of freezing cone versus players by 31%. Howl of the Storm being, I believe, the uppercut thing that you do. This Howl of the Storm definitely could use some help. I don't know if it needed that much help in PvP. I thought actually PvE, it's like not that great. So, okay. I would have liked to have seen like a little bit of some PvE help here for Howl of the Storm, but all right. Warlock Frost Pulse now provides 2 meters of additional melee lunge range after activation for 1.2 seconds. Okay. Yeah. These were not things that I was really anticipating getting this many changes. Let's just double check on Warlock here. Frost Pulse is the rift where you cast your rift and you freeze everything around you. Provides 2 meters of additional melee lunge range after activation for 1.2 seconds. I'm not like a Frost Pulse wizard. Maybe the Frost Pulse enthusiast out there can kind of elaborate on this. I guess this feels maybe more like a PvP kind of thing where you freeze people around you and then you maybe just like kind of whiff your melee as you go to punch somebody. Could be that. I don't know. Warlock, Frost Pulse, Warlocks, speak up in the comments. That's what it kind of feels like it is trying to do. Yeah, very, very, very light on the stasis tuning. Revisiting some of these changes and making updates where you feel, okay, all right. Yeah, across seasons 14 and 15, it's been like a year. Okay, yeah, primarily in the Crucible. All right. Okay, so that's it for stasis. Thought a bit more was maybe gonna be coming for that. Light subclass tuning updates. Titan. I skimmed this one, Titans, and it from what Bungie is saying, it doesn't seem that bad. But the days of infinite shoulder charging for movement capabilities seems like it is coming to an end. Bungie changed shoulder charges to make them not one shot quite a while ago. They're pretty much used as a movement tool for the most part. The extreme mobility enabled by the energy cost of shoulder charge is too high. Bungie is finally doing something about infinite shoulder charge movement. While we're comfortable with players having strong movement capabilities at their disposal, these abilities should have a meaningful trade-off for their use and shouldn't be always on. We're adding a small energy cost to shoulder charge abilities on activation, regardless of whether a target was hit. We realize it's a big shift, and we don't want to punish players who use these abilities primarily for offense, so we're offsetting this change with a decrease in their base cooldown. Seismic Strike, Shield Bash, Hammer Strike now cost 15% melee energy on activation. Base cooldowns are now standardized at 91 seconds. So if you actually use these abilities and you actually hit with your target, it's kind of a buff, right? Because your cooldown is not as long. But every time you use it for movement, it's going to cost you some energy. How much energy are we realistically talking? Bungie gives an example. Based on your strength stat, the effective cooldown on shoulder charges as a movement tool will range from around 17 seconds at 0 strength to around 7 seconds at 100 strength. This is why I'm like, okay, 7 seconds at 100 strength. Does that completely kill it? No. Am I sad about it? Yes, but like, is shoulder charge movement completely dead? I don't think so. I think it's still so strong that people are going to continue to use it. And it's, a 7-second cooldown at 100 strength. Could have been worse. You know what I mean? Could have been worse. If Bungie wants to make this change, hey, be glad it doesn't use the whole thing. You know what I mean? Sad to see it go, but I understand. I understand. Knockout. A lot of people got a problem with knockout. A lot of people got a problem with knockout. Lunge range reduced from 6.5 to 5.5 meters. Uncharged melee PvE damage bonus increased from 60 to 100%. So buff in PvE, but yeah, they are bringing the ridiculous melee lunge range down a meter. I don't want to say I saw it coming, but I figured with enough people complaining, it was going to get a nerf. And look, I've been in plenty of situations recently where I was like, oh my God, this attack was so undeserved. Yeah, I think it was bound to happen. Knockout is still probably going to be used, but it's no longer going to be as ridiculous as it might seem right now. Shield Throw and Throwing Hammer, making a few improvements to their usability, primarily against fast-moving targets. Shield Throw desperately needs buffs. Increase base damage impact from 60 to 70. Increase the consistency of finding and adjusting initial trajectory towards a new target after a bounce. My problem was actually finding a target in the first place. Like, if you whiffed on that first throw, like, that thing was just going off into the stratosphere. Like, it was not finding anything. I think, I want to see how this works out, but, and also this seems like more of like a PvP focused thing, but either way, like, shield throw, I don't know, I feel like this thing is still pretty weak, and I think I would like to see a little more target finding with regards to that initial throw, because it can be tough. If you hit something, the disc is probably going to hit other things. Like, that's not the thing I'm concerned about. The thing I'm concerned about is that first throw. Like, give me a little bit more on that. Throwing hammer now adjusts its initial flight trajectory based on your aim assist target. Okay, I mean, I've gotten pretty used to throwing hammer as is, and so we'll see if this ends up doing anything, if this ends up being annoying or not. Sol Invictus increased damage dealt by sunspots to enemy players per tick from 17 to 22. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty rare to get a sunspot in PvP. I don't really see them that often, so I guess they're just bumping it up. So if you do stand in a sunspot, it's going to kill you a little bit faster. Hunters, what do we got? Snare Bomb increased PvE weakened duration on detonation from 4 to 8 seconds. Okay. PvE weakened duration. Hey, I actually really, really like this. Snare Bomb was kind of like an emergency, like, oh crap, we don't have a weaken. Let me just yeet that one out real quick. But going from 4 to 8 is very, very nice to kind of have a more consistent weaken when you're maybe in a jam, especially with Gambler's Dodge. You just throw your Snare Bomb, you got 8 seconds. And then you have another snare bomb. So that's potentially 16 seconds straight of weaken just by throwing your melee out. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. For gunslingers, proximity explosive knife and weighted throwing knife, particularly on mouse and keyboard, have dominated the performance charts, with lightweight knife struggling to land in its intended role as an easy-to-use melee option. To bring back these to our expected power band, we're shifting the damage output of proximity explosive knives slightly further towards direct impacts, reducing the ease of use of weighted throwing knife for mouse and keyboard inputs, especially at very close range, and making lightweight knife easier to use for a broader range of player skills. Okay, and then Bungie throws a bunch of patch notes at us, a lot of minimum tracking shape size reductions and maximum tracking shape size. Like, let's put this into English. Basically, lightweight knife buff, proximity and weighted throwing knife nerf. More hunters in tune with the knives, feel free to speak up or check somebody else out who uses knives a lot. This is kind of beyond my pay grade as a not explosive or really knife using hunter in general. Gunpowder Gamble. Reduce cooldown from 12 to 6 seconds. Love that. Oh my God, I love that. I know people have been complaining about Gunpowder Gamble's cooldown. Cutting it in half. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that so much. Love that. Warlock. Okay, what do we got? Hang on, I just want to see much. Okay, we got a little bit more. Again, I kind of skimmed these a little bit more than the others. During Season 21 development, we identified a bug with Incinerator Snap that reduces in projectiles failing to proximity detonate. Fix this bug, okay. So Incinerator Snap fixed an issue preventing the secondary projectile arming shape from activating. Tumultators versus players reduced from 105 to 135 to compensate for dramatically increased consistency. Okay, again, this is Crucible. I'm not really snapping people in the Crucible that much. So Warlocks, if this is a problem that you've been experiencing a lot, feel free to celebrate. I cannot appreciate this change as much as other people because I'm just not really using it as much, but hopefully this should alleviate a bunch of problems. Ball Lightning, increasing its PvE damage output and implementing a small quality of life change to help prevent PvE combatants from flinching out of its downward lightning strikes while the player is amplified. Okay. Increased PvE damage by 30%. Love that. Reduce ping scalar on both primary and secondary detonation, so combatants are less likely to be knocked out of the secondary strike area while the player is amplified. Whew, did anyone just fall asleep while I was reading that sentence? Launch of Season 16 made some tuning changes to charge scatter grenades to improve their consistency. I feel like scatter grenades are dog right now. I feel like they're so dog. I don't know. So hopefully this change, whatever's coming up, increased tracking consistency of charge, scatter, grenade, sub-munitions, increased sub-munition arming duration, fixed a bug where sub-munitions were impacting the ground on creation in some situations, resulting in early detonation. I don't even think this was my problem. I think the problem was just like, man, the damage kind of sucks on this. I don't know. I used it for like a pretty short time, and I was like, dude, this is like not that great. I don't know. Is that just me? All right. But hopefully this helps. I don't know. But I just kind of felt like it was kind of eh. Magnetic grenade, handheld supernova, increased charge hold time from 3.2 to 4.5 seconds. Let's see what Bungie says about this. We're increasing the time players can hold a charged magnetic grenade to allow for a bit more leeway in their timing to counterplay an enemy trying to close the gap. Okay. That is their reasoning. Got it. So pretty self-explanatory there. I'm just going to move on from that. Lightning Surge. Identified a bug allowing Lightning Surge to effectively one-shot an enemy player in the Crucible if activated near a wall or other surface. Fixing this bug and making some updates to Lightning Surge to provide a more consistent experience for both the attacker and the target. Lovely. Yeah. Sounds more like a fix than really anything. I imagine it was pretty annoying getting one-shotted. Yeah. Self-explanatory there. We're just going to move on. Subclass keyword tuning updates. All right, what do we got? What do we got? We got Scorch, Jolt, and Speed Booster. The damage and duration of Scorch is highly variable depending on how many stacks are applied from a given source. While that variability is intentional, the delta in value between low and high stack amounts is a little too high for our liking, so we're slightly increasing the duration before Scorch stacks begin dropping off of a target to give low stack amounts slightly more value. Okay. Increase stun time before stacks begin falling off from 1.5 to 2.3 on players. Increase stun time before stacks begin falling off from 3 to 4.5 seconds on PvE combatants. Okay. PvE, I'm kind of down. Because there were definitely some times where like you would proc incandescent and it would hit something and you'd maybe try to throw like a firebolt, but because you didn't throw it instantaneously, the firebolt doesn't reach and explode in time to get you that ignition. So for PvE, I'm a pretty big fan of this. PvP, this sounds horrifying within the context of Season 20, but remember, this is happening in Season 21, and those firebolt perks are not going to be in the game anymore. They might come back at a future date, like we don't know. But try not to think about this change in the context of like Firebolt Trials madness, where you're just like, did they need even more buffs? Like, what's going on? I'm exploding every other round of Trials. Like, it's Season 21. Those perks are not going to be here anymore, so just keep that in mind. Jolt has performed very well in its intended role of making BV targets into miniature Tesla coils. In its current state, its damage output is too similar to Ignition's, but at a significantly lower cost, or making a small reduction in its potency. So this is not too surprising. I'm actually working on a video right now about destabilizing rounds, and I do a lot of comparisons to like Scorch and Jolt. The video is almost comparing all three of them. And in the video, I was like, I just like Jolt more. Like, there's just something about it. Its damage is really strong, and I'd much prefer Jolt over something like Volatile, just 1-to-1. Like, if I'm going to apply a Jolt, if I'm going to apply Volatile, which one do I want on a specific target? And I want a Jolt every time. And yeah, damage was a big part of it. So to see its PvE damage get reduced doesn't really surprise me too much. It was pretty darn strong. I think it'll still continue to be quite strong. This is not really going to change my opinion of Jolt too much, but yeah, this, based on a lot of the experience that I have with Jolt and a lot of testing that I've been doing for that video, this does not surprise me too much. Yeah, Jolt is, it's pretty good. It's pretty darn good. Speed Booster, getting a bunch of quality of life improvements. Bonus jump acceleration scalar reduced from 1.5x to 1.25. I assume this means you're not going to get as much height on your jump, which I know is actually a complaint among people. Like, people don't like how high you jump. So this just seems like direct community feedback being put into the game. Like, we don't like how high we jump. Please reduce it. And then Bungie's like, okay. Like, we thought you wanted to jump really high. Like, we thought that was cool, but if you don't like it, we'll just reduce it. So, okay, cool with that. Now activates while sprinting after 2.5 seconds, down from 3, so it activates a little bit faster. Now lingers while the player is not sprinting for 2 seconds, up from 1.5. Yeah, okay, okay, fine. It did feel like if you stopped moving for like any amount of time at all, it would just kind of shut off. It just gives you a little more leeway, and fixed a bug where if the player was already sprinting and then became amplified, Speed Booster would not be granted. Very, very good change there. Love that fix. And that is it. So yeah, a lot of buffs coming in, super buffs. I'm loving the super buffs. I'm loving a lot of the individual things that are happening too. Gunpowder Gamble getting reduced cooldown, Snare Bomb PvE weakened duration. Where was that that Spectral Blade change as well? Where was that? Love the Threaded Spike changes for Hunters. I mean Hunters. I'm loving a bunch of the things that are happening to you guys. Hello, where is it? Yeah, heavy attack now weakens targets on hits on Spectral Blades. Really, hoping this does something for Spectral Blades in endgame content. I would love to see Spectral Blades again pretty much anywhere. So yeah, I think this has some potential to be pretty cool. Damage buffs otherwise are pretty neat. I don't think no one's going to complain about supers getting buffed. They definitely needed it. Although we're just kind of still stomping over everything anyway. So yeah, a lot of good changes here. A lot of good changes. Some I'm sad about, like Titan's shoulder charge, infinite shoulder charge kind of going away, but I think, we'll live. Burning Maul. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here. A lot of good stuff. So sorry for the super long reaction content. I'm not really good at this. That's why I script all my stuff, but I'm pretty tired. So something's better than nothing, right? Cope. Is that just cope? All right, I'm going to go. Thanks for listening. I'm out.